When I transmigrated into Willow's body, she had just been forced into a ghost marriage, nailed inside a coffin, the air thick and suffocating. I clawed at the earth, pounded on the coffin, desperate to escape. A voice suddenly echoed in the air. "Perhaps you'd like to borrow my hairpin." Before I died, I once battled a flood dragon, but I failed, my soul shattered, leaving only a drifting wisp of a spirit in chaos for an unknown time. In my days, I heard the cold clinking sound of nails being hammered and smelled the damp earth. "Willow, rest in peace, may your next life be better." It was a woman's choked voice. "Your mother will pray to Buddha, asking for blessings for your next life." I weakly moved my wrist. Though this body was withered, it still breathed. A powerful torrent of memories flooded me. Willow's entire short, bleak life flashed before my eyes. From childhood, she lived in abject poverty, her body frail. As soon as she reached marriageable age, her parents hastily married her off for a bit of money. But even poor men needed a healthy wife to work and bear children. No one wanted to spend money marrying a burden. In this desperate situation, Elder Hu, a scholar in the town, proposed a good match. The groom was the young master of the Foster family, Julian Foster, a man of both talent and striking looks, refined and elegant, admired by countless maidens. How could such a man end up with Willow? It was simple. Julian Foster had died from a severe illness. A geomancer predicted that if they married him to a maiden born in September by the river, who had a guardian mole on her forehead, a ghost marriage could be performed. Elder Hu, eager to curry favor with the Fosters, searched along the river and indeed found such a girl. Alas, Willow, who possessed that mole, was still very much alive. So, with a bag of silver shards and a bowl of sedative, her parents and Elder Hu tricked her into the ghost marriage. The grief-stricken Fosters didn't bother to check carefully, thus burying a living person alongside their young master. The moment the coffin was covered with earth, Willow awoke. Sadly, she had a weak heart condition and died instantly from fright. I opened my eyes. Because of young Master Foster's high status, the coffin was very spacious, adorned with luminous pearls all around. But the air was scarce. In less than half a day, I would suffocate again. I tried to sit up, groped my hands around the coffin's seams, clawing and pounding with all my might, hoping to find a spot where the earth wasn't tightly packed. But this body was too weak. My limbs felt limp against the coffin lid. Useless. I was flustered when suddenly, a clear, slightly hesitant voice echoed in the air. "Perhaps you'd like to borrow my hairpin?" Silence surrounded me. "Who's there?" I asked. The voice coughed softly, sounding a bit awkward. "Try feeling beside you." Beside me lay Julian Foster with a serene expression. I'd been too panicked to look closely, but now I saw he was truly handsome. Ah, so this was my ghost husband. Before my death, I had almost attained enlightenment. Ghosts and spirits held no fear for me. I mentally apologized, then quickly took the hairpin from Julian's head. "You mean to use this fragile thing?" In my hand was an emerald green jade hairpin of excellent quality, but surely weaker than my own arm. The voice seemed to pause. The tip of the hairpin used to be sharp. My apologies, his family must have changed it. I reached out and groped all over Julian Foster. The voice in the air seemed to blush, a tightness in its throat. Alas, the Foster family loved their young master dearly. All his burial goods were jade and jewels, but there was nothing sharp. "Where are you? Please help me send a message. I'm about to suffocate." The voice remained silent for a long time. "I'm sorry, I've tried, but no one else can hear me." Around me, the luminous pearls also dimmed. He explained that as soon as the coffin makers hammered in the nails, he had awoken. He had been beside me and his family, but no matter how much he screamed to stop them, no one heard him, no one saw him, only the luminous pearls flickered. "Hey," I lightly patted Julian Foster's motionless hand. "Friend, let's try something. Why don't you pretend to be a ghost and scare people?" The matriarch of the Foster family herself led people to dig me out. The moment I saw light, I met a gentle and worried gaze. It was Julian Foster, now just a translucent, shadowy figure. He hovered beside the matriarch, watching his mother cry until she trembled, looking utterly awkward. He reached out to wipe his mother's tears, but his hand simply passed through her wrinkled face. The lights in the room flickered continuously. I knew it was my son is talking to me. The matriarch choked back tears. An hour ago, there was suddenly a ghost in my room. Candles swayed, the luminous pearls flickered erratically. I was terrified and knew I had to go to the grave to see. That's how she heard me tapping on the coffin with the hairpin. My son was so kind when he was alive. How dare you bury a living person with him? Julian Foster hovered in the air, smiling faintly at me. Elder who was dragged forward, sweating profusely. Matriarch, I was tricked too. This girl has been sick since childhood, her breath weak. Who knew she was still alive? I cut him off. You saw me, you even spoke to me. I only fell unconscious after drinking the sedative you gave me. I woke up in the young master's coffin. Elder who flared up. You're talking nonsense. That medicine was clearly given by your father. But by this point, he had admitted he knew I was alive. I insisted vehemently that he had caused my death. The matriarch waved her hand, and immediately, servants dragged Elder Hu away to report to the authorities. This involves a human life. He will certainly be severely punished. If he doesn't die, I'll find a way to make sure he does later. When I was free and about to leave, I turned back and saw Julian Foster still looking at his mother with a pained expression. Ignoring the maids trying to stop me, I stepped forward and gently wiped away the matriarch's tears. Matriarch, when I was unconscious, I heard the young master speak. He said he was unfilial, unable to wipe his mother's tears, and felt deep regret. He hopes his mother won't grieve anymore. The matriarch's eyes lit up. Really? My son is still here. I glanced at Julian Foster, who was watching expectantly, then nodded emphatically. It's true. He's still right beside you. Even if he can't speak, can't touch you, even if he can only borrow the flickering light of the luminous pearls, Julian Foster will always be with his mother. What the hell is this? As I walked, Julian Foster floated after me like a kite with a broken string, carried by the wind. I stopped and he stopped. I continued and he followed. Finally, I resigned myself to defeat. Turning back, I asked, "Were you like this before?" Julian Foster momentarily showed an innocent expression. "I only just died not long ago." He extended his wrist for me to see. It must be because of this. I looked down and saw that a faint, thin red thread had appeared on both our wrists, entwined together. Could it be that even though I only transmigrated into Willow's body, because she and Julian Foster had a ghost marriage, a bond was still formed between us? I grabbed the yin-yang master. He glanced at it, a profound demeanor on his face. To untie the knot, you must find the one who tied the bell. Since the young lady tied it herself, she must untie it herself. That's as good as saying nothing. I had tried for half a day using scissors, a dagger, even pulling hard or trying to snap it, but the red thread didn't budge at all. Unless, perhaps the one who tied it wasn't me, but the real Willow. I rummaged through her memories and finally found a short scene, the night elder who came to visit. Willow's mother suddenly became unexpectedly gentle, even cooking her a bowl of red date soup. "My dear child, wear this. Your mother prayed at the temple for it to bless you with a lifetime of peace." Willow, without a shred of doubt, immediately put it on, and that very night she was pushed by her own biological parents into Julian Foster's coffin. Well, remember the origin of the red thread now? Julian Foster hovered above, spinning around. As a newly formed ghost, he seemed quite delighted by the fact that he didn't need to walk and could fly. He kept trying 8 different poses, doing somersaults in the air without getting bored. "Yes, my mother put it on me, so let's go find your mother." As he spoke, he suddenly realized something was amiss. When the servants buried me alive, my mother was also there. Julian Foster hesitated. Auntie must have been tricked by Elder Hu too. "She wouldn't truly want you to," I replied indifferently. "Oh, she wasn't tricked at all. The sedative was given to me by my mother's own hand. Anyway, they aren't my biological parents, so I'm not particularly disappointed. It's just that there's still a surge of suffocating anger in my chest. It must be Willow's lingering resentment before she died." Julian Foster grew even more confused. Then why did you blame Elder Hu entirely?" I subtly licked my lips, my voice calm. "Of course, because Elder Hu has status. He's a scholar. With Willow's strength, it would be impossible to easily kill him. Her parents, however, are different." I lowered my head and subtly tugged at the red thread. "Come on, let's go see my parents." After 2 steps, I turned back and added, "If you're a coward, just close your eyes. I always repay debts, blood for blood, life for life." Willow's home was a dilapidated mud house by the river, with 5 mouths to feed. Her elder sister had a scarred, pockmarked face and couldn't get married, so she could only carry out heavy labor like a man in the household. Her younger brother had a fiery temper like a firecracker. He was the only son his mother bore after 5 births. As for her 2 younger sisters, one was thrown into the river, and the other was given away to another family from a young age. Willow, thanks to her beauty, was allowed to stay home for over a decade, waiting for the day she could be sold for a good price. I sneaked into the dilapidated backyard and encountered the younger brother carrying a lamp to the outhouse. As he walked, he muttered curses. "That damn Jinx. Before she left, she couldn't even bother to mend my shoes." His voice was still childish, but his manner of speaking was exactly like his cruel father. When Willow was given the sedative, he had stood by and watched. The custom dictated that the bride be carried out the door by her younger brother, ensuring her feet didn't touch the ground, so as not to carry away the blessings of her birth family. He was the one who had carried Willow into the coffin, even spraining his back. Now, he was grimacing and pulling up his pants. "Young master, put out his lamp," I said softly. Julian Foster complied instantly. In a blink, the flame vanished and the surroundings plunged into darkness. "What the hell?" I swung my stick, hitting his back, then another blow to his leg. Before he could finish cursing, he slipped and fell sprawling into the outhouse pit. The Chen family's outhouse was dilapidated, its rotting planks left unrepaired for over half a month. Now, it became a grave for their precious treasure. This younger brother was barely 2 years younger than Willow, but she had cared for him since he was a baby. A child who couldn't even care for himself had to look after an infant, so whenever the younger brother cried, their parents would vent their anger by beating her. Later, the brat discovered this and found it amusing, deliberately feigning crying to get his sister beat. A blood-sucking demon who grew up feeding on his sister's flesh and blood, this family even hastily married her off in a ghost marriage to save money for his wedding. In the pit, only a few moans remained. I casually threw a layer of dry straw over him, and soon silence. When I turned back, Julian Foster had somehow appeared right beside me, his face pale, his voice trembling. Is he her younger brother?" I smiled. "Yes, he's my younger brother. You did well. Come on, let's deal with the next one." After waiting for some time and the younger brother not returning, someone came looking after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. I hid in the dense weeds, eyes wide open and unblinking. Heavy footsteps, a large figure, no lamp in hand. It was elder sister. I gripped the stick tightly. The younger brother, though male, only knew how to fool around, soft and useless. But the elder sister was different. Since childhood, she had borne all the heavy chores in the house, very strong. But the Chen family was stingy, not allowing their daughters to light lamps, so she fumbled in the dark. She walked closer step by step. I mentally counted, 3, 2, 1. Just then, I raised a finger as a signal, and the younger brother's lamp, which had fallen by the outhouse pit, suddenly flared up. The elder sister indeed turned back, looking down. Whack! I used all my strength to strike the elder sister's nape with the stick. Oh no, Willow's body was too weak. This blow only stunned her, not knocked her out. In my panic, I changed direction and struck her right eye, but I was a beat too slow. She glared with fierce eyes, shouted loudly, intending to grab me. A cold gust of wind surged from below, sand and dust blinding the elder sister. I immediately stomped hard on her right foot. Since childhood, the elder sister had worn her younger brother's old shoes, and her feet were already deformed. The pain made her stagger. I took the opportunity to push her again, and the elder sister tumbled into the pit. I softly said, "Go keep your beloved younger brother company there." I sank to the ground, gasping for a long time. Julian Foster circled above my head, his voice timid. "Did she bully you too?" I shook my head, then nodded. Willow's feelings for her elder sister were complicated. Hatred, resentment, unwillingness to accept, so intense that at times I thought her soul had returned. The moment that last push sent elder sister tumbling, my chest ached. That scarred woman once spoon-fed me porridge when I was hungry, once scared my younger brother so he wouldn't pull my hair. But she was also the first to suggest marrying me off in a ghost marriage to young Master Foster. When Elder Who came and saw I was still alive, he sighed, saying this family was unlucky. My parents were speechless. The elder sister then spoke up, "That fortune belongs to Willow. Marrying into a powerful family, even dying is worth it." "How did you know?" Julian Foster suddenly asked. I held my breath, my voice hoarse, and saw it through the crack in the door. A memory flashed, someone's perspective tiptoeing to eavesdrop. Perhaps Willow had heard noises that day and secretly peeked. Later, I learned my mother's heart softened, but it was elder sister who went to buy the medicine and even coaxed the younger brother to carry me out for the marriage. In return, she received 5 taels of silver as a dowry. My parents wouldn't allow elder sister to marry. She was old and ugly, and if she didn't marry, she'd be a servant her whole life. My throat tasted of blood, my voice choked. but I secretly embroidered handkerchiefs, saving money for her, and she knew. 3 taels and 7 coins I hid right under elder sister's pillow. The waning moon hung far away on the treetops. I pushed myself up with the stick, then casually tossed it aside. Willow's body was too weak. Just now, I relied on the messy terrain in the backyard, plus Julian Foster's ability to control fire to successfully ambush them. But that method might not be enough to deal with her parents. Anyway, was that cold gust of wind just now you're doing? The sudden wind, which had whipped sand into elder sister's eyes. Julian Foster nodded faintly, then scratched his head, a bit embarrassed. I was anxious to pull you back, but unexpectedly I conjured a gust of wind. How interesting. This little ghost, with time, had learned new abilities, controlling fire and now wind, all useful for scaring people. Thank you. Do you have any wishes? When I recover, I will help you fulfill them. Once I restore my true form to the god transformation stage, there's nothing I can't achieve. Hearing me, Julian Foster burst out laughing. What could you possibly do for a ghost? He clasped his hands in a respectful gesture, the corners of his eyes curved upward. The cruel fate entwined with my family is why you suffered such injustice. Anything I can do to make amends is what I should do. I merely looked at him, saying no more. Never mind, I'd get my true form back and then scare him thoroughly. So, have you figured out how to deal with your parents? At this, he still seemed a little embarrassed, but also quite eager, even more anxious than me. People who would bury their own daughter alive are worse than beasts? I nodded. Exactly. My father is just an old, pedantic, stingy scholar. Not good at studying, but always arrogant. Even though the family was destitute, he refused to farm or carry burdens. My mother was outwardly gentle, always praying to Buddha. Yet for over a decade, she never gave me any of the cakes and fruits offered to Buddha. Every time she beat me, I cried, and she cried too, blaming me for being a useless daughter. I bent down to pick up a paper packet dropped nearby, something elder sister had lost when she fell. I immediately knew it was the sedative she had bought to use on me. Young Master Foster, I called to Julian Foster, I have a plan. The ghost young master transformed into a gust of wind, sweeping the powdered sedative into the wine bottle my father had just bought. My mother brought out 2 savory dishes, only to find my father slumped onto the table, dead drunk. How did he get drunk so fast? Good wine really is different. She paused momentarily, then set the dishes down. I hid behind a pile of dry grass outside the door, observing. They were new porcelain plates bought from the market. The meal included roasted chicken, smoked meat, and the wine bottle was also from the town's finest tavern. My mother wore a new hairpin. Father's shoes were also replaced with newer ones. How wonderful. Burying Willow alive had brought the whole family days of joy and prosperity. Mother had a new hairpin, father drank fine wine, elder sister had hope of marrying, younger brother had money for a wife. It was as if the Chen family's over a decade of poverty was just to wait for this day of changing fortunes. Suddenly, a sound echoed from outside the door. My mother nudged my father's shoulder a few times. Seeing he didn't stir, she stood up. Who's there? It's the middle of the night. Little Wolf must be wandering God knows where. She spoke as she stepped out to see. Oh, is that Sister Chen? A neatly dressed midwife with a warm smile arrived. Sister Chen truly has good fortune. I'm here on behalf of Elder Hu to discuss something good. She slipped a string of coins into my mother's hand. Hearing Elder Hu's name, my mother briefly panicked, her hand trembled, dropping the string of coins to the ground. She hastily bent to pick them up. But my daughter, my mother stammered wordlessly. The midwife gently pressed down on the mother's hand, lowering her voice. Sister Chen, it's truly good news. Elder Hu has been arrested for his crime and likely won't escape with his life. But he invited a yin-yang master to inquire, and learned that if they found a man born at noon on the first day of the first lunar month, 40 years old, with a mole on his left hand, and buried him together, they could change their fate to be reborn rich and noble. She raised her hand to indicate the amount. The silver was 5 times the price of my sale. My mother recoiled a step in fear, but then couldn't help glancing at her husband, then another glance. Born at noon on the first day of the first lunar month, 40 years old with a mole on his left hand. Wasn't that exactly him, slumped on the table? Burying a daughter alive only got a hairpin, but burying her husband too would be enough to build a new house, buy new clothes, and make it easier for her son to marry. I had never believed in her gentle exterior. Just as she would kneel and cry, praying to Buddha for blessings for the daughter in the coffin, she would surely cry and pray to Buddha for her husband to be buried with Elder Hu. Indeed, my husband drank a bit too much last night, but he matches the fate Elder Hu needs. My mother lowered her voice, darting her eyes around. I know you're looking for elder sister. You must be thinking there's leftover sedative from last time. But Julian Foster had thoughtfully used the wind to place that packet of medicine on elder sister's bed, right where the mother could see it. Little did my mother know that her husband had already drunk wine with the medicine in it. Fearing she might miss the opportunity, she left the midwife waiting outside and went back in to feed her husband more of that sedative. I watched my father. He was fast asleep. The medicine's effect was very strong. Even when my mother choked him and forced him to drink more medicine, he didn't struggle. Perhaps fearing it wasn't enough, my mother gritted her teeth, pulled out her hairpin, and plunged it straight into her husband's throat. Was I like that yesterday too, letting people do as they pleased, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered? A gentle breeze brushed my eyelids. Julian Foster softly whispered in my ear, "Willow, don't look anymore." The candle accidentally rolled off the table, hit the floor, sputtering and catching fire. The midwife peeked in, saw the bloody scene, screamed in terror, and ran out in a panic. Sister Chen murdered someone? Chaos erupted everywhere. On the ground was a pool of fresh red blood. The constables rushed in, immediately tied up my mother and dragged her away. So that was it. My father definitely no longer had the chance to be buried with Elder Hu. But my mother might just make it in time to share Elder Hu's sentence. Perhaps it was fate, someone harmed me, someone instigated me. My mother screamed and struggled fiercely. When she caught sight of the midwife, she frantically pointed. It was her who told me. A constable angrily spat. This wretch even dares to frame a servant of the Foster family. HMPH, if she buried her own daughter alive for money, killing her husband would be no trouble. The compassionate midwife came to visit, and she still tried to frame her. My mother cried desperately, her arms twisted behind her back, dragged out into the yard. For some reason, in that moment, I briefly wondered if, when she pulled out her hairpin to stab her husband, she had prayed to Buddha or Bodhisattva for my father. Julian Foster anxiously covered my face, wanting to prevent me from seeing the scene. I chuckled softly. Do you know you're a translucent ghost and people can see right through you? After the crowd dispersed, I walked up to the midwife. Many thanks. Midwife Min was also Julian Foster's wet nurse. She gently took my hand. I just helped convey a message. It was her greed. She brought it upon herself. I nodded faintly. Midwife Min looked at me, a flicker of pity in her eyes, her voice trembling. If the young master were alive, he surely wouldn't have allowed you to be bullied like this. Saying this, she gently turned away, hastily wiping tears. Julian Foster stood behind me, quietly bowed his head, his hands hanging limply. I softly said, "The young master misses you very much." Getting Midwife Min's help was actually very simple. I had thought of writing a letter forging young Master Foster's handwriting, telling stories only the two of them knew, or using fire to feign a miracle, but that was too troublesome. I hadn't expected that merely saying, "The young master sent a dream," would work. Midwife Min immediately nodded in agreement, helping me lure my mother and even report to the authorities. Hearing me recount it, she smiled kindly, as if looking at a child she had raised from infancy. I don't believe in dream messages. I paused. Then why did you still help me? Her smile remained gentle, her gaze passed through me, stopping at Julian Foster. The ghost marriage was due to the matriarch's temporary grief, misled by the geomancer, which became an excuse for evildoers to take advantage. But if the young master were alive, he would surely seek justice for you. A fire, burning down the entire Chen family home. From now on, return to dust, all ties of gratitude and righteousness are severed. I whispered to myself, Willow, I will sever this family bond for you. The life given by your parents was buried with Julian Foster in the coffin. The one who came back to life now is no longer their daughter, but a new person. How about changing your name? Julian Foster squatted beside me, his hand fiddling with a blade of grass, his voice light. It's a pity that even though the Chen family is now ashes, the red thread on my wrist is still there. Julian Foster was still like a kite tied to a string, hovering around me. He kept mumbling, "How about calling you?" I chuckled softly. A little ghost presuming to name someone? No need. My name is Alara, just call me Alara. Before I finished speaking, I laughed loudly. I hadn't expected this little ghost, and I were truly fated. He subtly touched his nose. A new beginning, radiant hope. I wish you a fresh start and smooth sailing in life. The red thread on my wrist tightened, trembling slightly. How strange. His blessing happened to fit my name. Young master, the name you chose is nice, but I looked directly into his eyes, my voice calm. My original name is Alara, a disciple of the celestial sect. In truth, Willow died in the coffin. Once I return to my sect, untie this thread, I will send you off to reincarnation. My sect ancestor knows the celestial official of fate. You saved my life. In return, in your next life, you'll have wealth or glory you choose. Thanks to this extraordinary encounter, I borrowed Willow's body to help her repay all her life's debts, but eventually, I still have to return to my own path. Julian Foster was momentarily surprised, then quickly accepted. That makes sense. A woman oppressed for over a decade would surely not have such fierce resolve as you. Seeing him so calm, I grew curious and asked, "Haven't you heard of me? Alara, the heavenly sovereign, about to break through to the god transformation stage, a high-ranking elder of the celestial sect, an unparalleled genius. My name should shake the heavens and earth, shouldn't it?" But upon hearing my name, Julian Foster didn't change his expression at all. Though this region was remote and he wasn't a cultivator, his ignorance was somewhat understandable. Yet, the celestial sect was famous throughout the mortal realm. Julian Foster heard the term spiritual root cultivation, as if for the first time, his eyes revealing curiosity. But his next sentence sent a chill down my spine. "I've heard rumors of a group seeking immortality and enlightenment in the north, but I've traveled far and wide and have never heard of the celestial sect." I had opened my eyes in a coffin, escaped death, and only then thought of revenge. It was only now that I realized I had never even asked what year this was. Year 14 of Zheaming. Zheaming 14? Zheaming 14? It turned out this was 400 years earlier than the time I had lived before. In Zheaming year 29, 15 years later, the human emperor ascended, and only then did the path of cultivation in the mortal realm begin to flourish. My sect, the celestial sect, was also established at the beginning of Zheaming year 29. But what about me? What year did I join the celestial sect? Who was I before joining? The more I thought, the more my head ached as if it would split open. In my memories, there seemed to be a layer of fog that I couldn't see through. Julian Foster lightly touched my hand like a breeze. "If old memories are too painful, don't dwell on them anymore." I felt remorseful. If it really was Zheaming year 14, it would indeed be difficult to ask my sect ancestor for help, as he had not yet ascended. But if this red thread never broke, young Master Foster wouldn't be able to reincarnate. A wandering spirit remaining in the mortal realm for too long would eventually go against the cycle of karma. If I delayed his next life's fate, I would owe him too much. Julian Foster smiled nonchalantly. "It's fine. If the red thread won't break, you can just lead me around." I suddenly remembered a way. Madame Meng was originally two twin sisters. One presided over the yellow springs, ladling broth, while the other incarnated and journeyed among mortals. When I was Alara, I once met Madame Meng in the land of the extreme north. There was a mirror of mortal fates there, where mortals could see living beings from the 6 realms. It was also the only chance to meet Madame Meng. Perhaps Madame Meng has a way to untie this red thread. Then, let's head to the northern border. Julian Foster lit more incense and candles for the matriarch and midwife men, then kowtowed 3 times before the door. He considered it a farewell. We set off, heading north. The ghost young master loved to talk, and to avoid meeting bad people, we decided to travel at night. Remembering his ghost-scaring tricks, demons and evil spirits truly dared not approach. The closer we got to the northern border, the more Julian Foster could control. Besides fire and wind, he could now transmit sound and retrieve objects. Even when he lightly brushed past my shoulder, I could clearly feel a slight chill. Tying my hair after washing my face was still a struggle. I had never been good at such things. Suddenly, a cool hand took over, tying my hair behind my head. Such skill truly spoils my hairpin, I thought, meaning his skill made my previous attempts seem terrible. His hands were very nimble. With just a few movements, he neatly tied up my long hair. I felt it a neat, round bun. In my past life, I just had to make a magic seal and it was done. Now, he was growing more formidable. He could directly tie my hair, and I could even clearly feel it was his hand. I curiously tugged at his sleeve and his hand. Sometimes I truly touched it. Other times it just passed through like wind. His state was still very unstable. "This hairpin, my mother left it for me," he suddenly said. He rarely mentioned his parents. I heard that the eldest son of the Foster family and his wife had died young in an accident, leaving only a young son. I listened quietly. This hairpin is. He hesitated, then changed his tone. I died too soon, so the hairpin came down to the grave with me. There were many jewels and books in his coffin, clearly chosen carefully by his family. Don't worry, I comforted him. We'll go quickly to the northern border and ask Madame Meng to untie the red thread. You'll reincarnate quickly, and who knows, you might even meet your family again. Madame Meng is inherently kind. She occasionally arranges things secretly. The prematurely deceased son of a great philanthropist was reborn as a youngest child. An orphaned woman who hadn't repaid her benefactor was reborn as the child of a childless benefactor. Midwife Min once told me that the Foster family had been benevolent for generations. From the matriarch to Julian Foster's parents, while they were alive, they had helped many people. I believe the celestial official of fate will grant him a good next life. As I spoke, my heart briefly remembered my own era. I was deep in thought and didn't hear Julian Foster softly whisper, "A little delay is fine." I suddenly woke up and asked, "What did you say?" He didn't answer, just shook his head, swung his legs, and floated forward, his voice light. "Let's go, quickly now." On a vast expanse of white snow, not a soul in sight. "Ilara, you look like a round snowball." I shot him a glance. The closer we got to the land of the extreme north, the more scattered Julian Foster's words became. Sometimes, even while flying, he'd turn to argue with me. "SHH, we're here." The mirror of mortal fate stood towering, like a chasm reaching the ocean floor. Trembling, I pulled Julian Foster and looked down into the mirror. "Who's there?" a clear voice echoed. My luck was quite good. It was the benevolent older sister of the two Madame Meng sisters. I told Madame Meng about my fate, Willow's death, the red thread entwined on Julian Foster's wrist. "And how can I return to my true form?" "Oh my," Madame Meng looked at us from within the mirror. "Truly a refined pair of ghosts. No, that's not right, how strange." Madame Meng's very large eyes swept around. She reached out and gently pinched my arm, then took a drop of blood from my fingertip. She closed her eyes as if transmitting information. After a long moment, Madame Meng spoke. "Willow truly died. The one who had the ghost marriage with Julian Foster was indeed Willow." I breathed a sigh of relief. "Then please, Madame Meng, quickly untie the red thread so he can reincarnate." Before I could finish, Madame Meng interrupted, her voice very firm. "But I searched through the book of life and death, and there is no one named Ilara." I explained, "Perhaps it's because I haven't been born in this era yet." "No, that's not it," Madame Meng cut me off. "This is your true form, young lady, you are Willow." The red thread trembled faintly. In my mind, my thoughts suddenly surged like crashing waves, my head aching as if it would split open, but I still couldn't clearly see my own origin. "I am Ilara, a high-ranking elder of the celestial sect, a cultivator at the god transformation stage, but who was I before that?" Where did the name Ilara come from? Where are my parents, my family? I clasped my head and knelt on the ground, eyes tightly shut, vaguely hearing Julian Foster calling me anxiously. Before I woke up in the coffin, I was battling a vicious flood dragon. With my cultivation, breaking through to the god transformation stage was only a matter of time. Subduing a vicious flood dragon was not a difficult task, but disaster struck because my heavenly tribulation had arrived. Heaven's wrath, my soul shattered, neither human nor ghost, forbidden from becoming an immortal. A searing pain tore through my chest, my soul shattered, neither human nor ghost. I remember now, I remember everything. The cramped corner of the room, the lurking gazes, the empty bowl of sedative. In my memories, the cruel parents, the heartless elder sister, the younger brother bowing his head, burying me in the coffin. But that wasn't what Willow had seen. That was the moment my soul left my body before death, returned to the past, and through a temporal rift saw everything. My name is Willow Chen, the youngest daughter of the Chen family, who grew up from childhood amidst beatings and curses. When my mother gave me that bowl of medicine and personally tied that red thread, I naively believed it was a moment she unknowingly loved me. I woke up in the coffin, beside me the ice-cold corpse of Julian Foster, surrounded only by the suffocating smell of earth. I tried my best to call for help. I clearly heard my mother secretly return, kneel by the grave, praying to Buddha, "Please don't inflict punishment upon me." She paused for a moment, then hastily took a few steps, stomping the earth to pack it tighter. The moment I suffocated to death, my desperate tear fell onto Julian Foster's face. "Young lady," the handsome young ghost hovering in the air called to me. Julian Foster performed good deeds for 9 generations, his merits complete. Even the emissaries of the underworld had to come personally to greet him. After reincarnation, he was destined to be a Ziwe star. But who knew that before he departed, he would get entangled in a mistaken ghost marriage? Julian Foster had saved people for 9 generations, never betrayed anyone. I died because of him. He owed a debt, so he couldn't achieve his perfect ending. Young lady, do you have any heartfelt wishes? What are my wishes? First, I want no father, no mother, no relatives, no attachments so as not to be bound by blood ties. Second, I want to have a name and a family, skills and strength, so as not to be treated as an item to be bought, sold, and trampled upon. Third, I want to have power and influence, both scholarly and martial, to help many people. Fourth, I want to exact blood vengeance to personally eliminate the beasts of the Chen family. The emissary of the underworld took a cold breath. Your wishes are not few. But the ghost young master thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. I grant the first 3 wishes. For the 4th, please forgive me. Willow is already dead. One who is dead cannot personally kill enemies. Julian Foster used his merits to exchange for a dream. In the dream, I was an orphan without parents, relatives, or ties, reborn into an era where anyone could cultivate immortality. I had extraordinary talent, diligently cultivated, and over 200 years later became a high-ranking elder of the celestial sect. Everyone respected me, and I had numerous disciples. I saved countless people: orphaned girls, disabled old women, gravely ill courtesans, amputee soldiers. I changed the destinies of many weak people. An oppressed woman became a formidable senior disciple. A child abandoned by the Dew River became a top scholar. Traffickers of women were beheaded in the market. Until that battle, a dream could never ascend. My soul shattered, neither human nor ghost. At that time, I still didn't know that throughout all the years I truly lived in that dream, Julian Foster had always watched over me, never leaving. When the vicious flood dragon's claws tore open my chest, I heard a sound from high above. First, a sigh. Your 4th wish, I grant it to you too. I will send you back to the moment you were buried in the coffin. Do whatever you wish. Then, can I still meet you? I blurted out. Julian Foster smiled faintly. Try feeling beside you, he's probably still there. I wasn't asking about your corpse. He was silent for a moment, his voice still very soft. We can meet, but if time reverses, you and I will no longer know each other. Then heaven and earth shattered, the dream crumbled. I drifted in the vast emptiness for a very, very long time. When I awoke again, it was still that familiar coffin. Willow is dead, so why am I still in the mortal realm? I looked up and softly asked. Julian Foster should have reincarnated long ago. Could he really remain in the mortal world indefinitely with a half-human, half-ghost body? Madame Meng lightly tapped in the void. Behind Julian Foster, a wisp of soul fire slowly ignited, but the soul fire on his right shoulder had extinguished. Young Master Foster exchanged 1 soul and 2 spiritual essences for Willow's return to the mortal realm for 1 month. Young Master, do you know that doing so will make 9 generations of merits vanish, and you won't be able to reincarnate as a human again? Is it worth it? My spirit was violently shaken. Madame Meng's voice echoed faintly and vaguely. I understood a little, but also didn't fully understand. Instinctively, I turned to look at Julian Foster. The ghost young master still maintained his serene demeanor, as if the sky could collapse and it wouldn't matter, smiling as he looked at me. He said, I don't remember anymore. If I don't remember, naturally, I no longer care. But young Lady Alara has suffered too much in this life. In the next life, she must surely enjoy blessings. Madame Meng sighed. With the protection of his soul essence in her next life, she will have a happy family and a healthy body. More than that, I cannot give. Julian Foster nodded. Then that's good. Alara, do you think that's acceptable? I opened my mouth, my throat dry. For a moment, I couldn't utter a word. Good, it's too good, but what about you? My own tears, like pearls whose thread had broken, rolled down my face. I asked tremblingly, then can I still meet you? This time, Julian Foster didn't answer. I turned to look at Madame Meng, my eyes pleading. She was a bit irritated. He cannot reincarnate as a human, did you hear clearly? That means he could become a pig, a cow, a blade of grass. Such a good Ziwe star, fate ruined by himself. Yet Julian Foster just laughed mockingly. Then becoming dogtail grass is fine too. Those grasses are very happy, soft, and fluffy. I suddenly sprang up, spread my arms, and lunged straight towards Julian Foster. Don't say any more, don't say any more. A noble, refined gentleman, gentle as jade, who spent a lifetime doing good deeds with immeasurable merits. He should have sat on a high platform, wearing brocade robes and a jade crown, not be willing to become a blade of dogtail grass for an ill-fated woman like me. I just wanted to hug him once, desperately wanted to hug him. But my hand passed through the air, gliding through his robes. I saw Julian Foster's pupils contract slightly. He instinctively reached out to embrace me, but couldn't touch me. I fell to the ground. Turning my head, I only saw Julian Foster's figure gradually blurring, turning into twinkling starlight. "Ah, so it's time now, Alara?" The words that followed, I couldn't hear clearly anymore. "Origin of all things, radiant light. Alara, I wish you a fresh start in your next life, a lifetime of smooth sailing." My name is Alara, the only daughter of Master Yuan of Changzhou. My parents were harmonious, my grandmother gentle, and I grew up pampered. When I was born, my right wrist had a red thread that wouldn't fade no matter how I washed it. I heard that during my first birthday, I didn't care for gold, silver, brushes, ink, or jewels. Instead, I insisted on crawling off the bed, going to the door, and grabbing a blade of dogtail grass. That plant was then potted and placed by my windowsill. If I didn't see it for even a day, I would cry noisily. My parents didn't know what to do, so they let me be. Fortunately, besides liking dogtail grass, I wasn't foolish. I simply held onto that plant and grew up peacefully until I was 17. Other girls were already discussing marriage, but I felt no interest in any man. My sisters in the boudoir dragged each other to secretly watch the top scholar. I only found it noisy. Everyone admired the young general, but I only thought his spear dance was beautiful. My parents worried until their hair turned gray. "My dear daughter, what kind of gentleman do you ultimately like? Do you really want to marry that dogtail grass?" I replied nonchalantly. "That's fine too." So my mother chased me around the yard with a broom. Vaguely in my heart, I always felt I was waiting for someone, or perhaps not necessarily a person, maybe a pig, a cow, or a blade of grass. But I didn't dare tell my parents, nor was I clear who exactly I was waiting for. Until one day, while traveling to Jiangnan, I accidentally saw a newly formed cat spirit in the temple's backyard. He must have just learned to transform into human form. His fluffy tail was still visible. On his hand, there was also a red thread. My eyes widened in surprise. Startled, he instinctively hugged his tail and turned his head. Our eyes met. Uncontrollably, tears streamed down my face, gushing endlessly. The cat spirit panicked, its limbs flailing. "Oh, why are you crying? Did I scare you? It's my first time transforming, still very clumsy. Please don't cry, or let me transform back, okay?" He gently twirled, transforming into a fluffy, big-tailed cat. Lightly pushing off with his hind legs, he leaped onto my chest. The kitten raised its paw, carefully touched my cheek. Meow, a crooked tumble. "Don't cry anymore, okay? Here, you can pet the cat." His fluffy tail gently brushed my face. The wind was gentle, the sun was warm, and the cat was truly well behaved. One mortal life, so much sorrow and upheaval, finally complete.